As the investigation into that massive stockyards fire in Lexington continues, we've learned a piece of the city's history that sits nearby did survive the fire.
A key tenant of Lexington's Centrepointe project turned to social media today to voice his frustration about its progress.
So I'm floating naturally. I'm not doing any kind of movement of any nature to stay afloat.
How some people in Lexington say they found a way to relieve stress by floating.
This is WKYT News at 6.
Good evening to you. What caused one of Lexington's biggest fires in decades? Tonight, city, state, and now federal investigators are trying to figure it out.
ATF agents were among those at Bluegrass Stockyards today investigating Saturday's massive fire. Lexington firefighters are still keeping an eye on hot spots 2 days later. Governor Matt Bevin and Kentucky Ag Commissioner Ryan Quarles toured the fire damage today, and they offered their support. Hillary Thornton begins our top story team coverage with the latest.
The place now reduced to rubble, filled with investigators working to find a cause. More than a business to Agriculture Commissioner Ryan Quarles.
For me, some of my earliest childhood memories are sitting in the sail rink with my dad. My dad used to work here when he was a college student, UK College of Ag, so this was personal for me. Commissioner Quarles alongside Governor Matt Bevin offering support as Bluegrass Stockyards moves forward.
This is an integral part of this community, has been for many years and for generations. That's not going to change. The commitment is there. I'm inspired by it.
As Governor Bevin got a first-hand look at the destruction left behind from Saturday's fire, just feet away, a historic limestone building still standing with very little damage.
It is old. Limestone.
For decades, Eugene Barber and Sons Livestock has operated out of the old house sitting on Bluegrass Stockyards property.
Come on in.
One of the oldest buildings in Lexington, built around 1785. The former home to one of Lexington's founders.
It's got to be one of the most important houses to telling Lexington's history. So to have it saved by the fire department, not have any fire damage is just stunning. It's amazing.
Suffering very little damage, a relief for those working to preserve Lexington's history, a bright spot through all of the smoke for those in the livestock industry.
I mean, you see that right there just feet away, and then it goes every direction but here. We're just really, really lucky.
In Lexington, Hillary Thornton, WKYT.
A bright spot there. Lexington police say they're having a problem, though, with curious onlookers trying to see the fire damage. They're asking people to stay away unless they have business in the area.
Well, it was certainly hard to miss thick black smoke from the fire rising high into the air over Lexington Saturday. This afternoon, Lexington firefighters said the air quality around the stockyards is now back to normal. But as Sean Moody tells us, investigators want to make sure that water quality in the area is safe as well.
You can see that column all across the Bluegrass. Thick black smoke tracing across the bright blue sky. It wasn't just an indication of how bad the fire was, it was also concerning for environmental officials.
And that's what we've been concerned with is small particles that can be inhaled.
On Sunday, the Lexington Fire Department sent out an email saying fine solids in the air could cause problems for people who already had respiratory issues.
And those are the ones that can be inhaled and cause either they themselves cause damage by going deep into the lungs, or they might carry other toxic particles with them.
By this morning, the Kentucky Department of Environmental Protection said levels of those fine solids were back below the dangerous range.
Last night, about midnight, we hit our magic number where we felt we were fairly safe.
Environmental protection officials aren't worried about the air quality so much anymore, but they are going to keep an eye on water. Town Branch Creek is just down the hill from the stockyards, and there will be a company monitoring that.
We don't really feel like there's a serious threat from this fire, but the owner of the property is going to hire a contractor or a consultant to do the water quality monitoring above the site and then below the site, just to demonstrate that there's no long-term effects from the fire.
They don't expect there will be any problems, but they say they're just trying to be sure. In Lexington, Sean Moody, WKYT.
Environmental response workers said they didn't expect any chemicals to be an issue. Lexington's interim fire chief called this the biggest fire he's worked in his 30 years on the job. That dates back to 1986 when the Campbell House Inn on Harrodsburg Road caught fire. There was massive damage to the hotel, but no guests or employees were hurt. In 2001, the main building on the UK campus, which houses the administration offices, was severely damaged by fire. That building reopened in 2004 after extensive reconstruction. And in 2008, Lexington firefighters worked a massive fire on Jefferson Street. The fire destroyed the Starlight and Magic Company and forced evacuations of some downtown homes and businesses. For more coverage of the Bluegrass Stockyards fire, go to WKYT.com.
Tomorrow will be an unseasonably, to say the least, warm day, but it will come with a price, the threat of severe storms. Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey has an early look at the forecast.
Yeah, we've been setting the stage for this possibility for the past week, and here we are heading into Groundhog Day, and the potential, as you mentioned, for that record warmth to lead to strong or even big-time severe thunderstorms tomorrow evening. In the short term, chillier air is in place across the region. The numbers, though, right now, colder than what we had an hour ago, but still above where we should be for day 1 of February. It's day 2 of February that gets really active. Your Groundhog Day will start out with your Defender Radar Network looking exactly what it is showing right, or like it is right now. Nothing going on across Kentucky. Most of the daylight hours tomorrow, outside of a stray shower, should be in pretty good shape. Though, look to our southwest. This is a powerhouse of a storm that has a collision of air masses. Warm air to the south, cold air to the northwest, where a blizzard is going to be breaking out over the next several hours. We're not worried about that part of the storm. We are worried about the warm sector of that storm that could bring severe weather into central and eastern Kentucky as we go into tomorrow evening and tomorrow night. With or without severe thunderstorms, winds are going to crank. We could be talking about gusts that are approximately 45 to 50 miles per hour. Wind advisory is out for the entire region. When I come back in just a few minutes, guys, we're going to break down that severe weather threat in greater detail, including a brand new hour-by-hour forecast timing the severe weather where you live.
With another deadline just days away, there could be new developments with the Centrepointe project in downtown Lexington.
Last month, the city gave developers a 30-day extension to begin work on the site. That deadline is Friday. Jennifer Palumbo is at the live desk with a story that's new at 6. Jennifer?
Amber, back in August, we told you about a UK law student teaming up with a New York investment group to take over Centrepointe, the project that started back in 2008. Well, the developer's latest extension was because city leaders are waiting on a consultant's report about whether moving the government center to Centrepointe is a good use of taxpayers' money. According to Mayor Jim Gray's spokeswoman, that report will be presented to the Urban County Council in closed session in the next few weeks. One of the key tenants is restaurant owner Jeff Ruby, who's been waiting 4 years for construction to start on a Jeff Ruby steakhouse. Ruby told me today that a source close to the project told him this afternoon that the report will be good news, and he's cautiously optimistic. Before that call, Ruby took to Twitter to vent his frustration, tweeting, in his words, "No city should have an unsightly eyesore like this displayed in the heart of its downtown for this long, with the hashtag shameful." He included a photo of the empty pit. Jeff Ruby says he still has a backup location in Lexington. If Centrepointe doesn't work out, he's just not ready to say where that is. At the live desk, Jennifer Palumbo, WKYT.
Jennifer, thank you. If the report isn't back by Friday, the developers can get a third extension from the city.
In today's world where many of us are constantly connected, where every moment seems as taken or accounted for, there's a need to step back and find some quiet time to relax and deconnect. Tonight, you'll meet a Lexington entrepreneur who believes that she has the answer to relieving stress by floating. The story is new at 6. In a small building on East High Street in Lexington, Corinne LaRue has created a place of peace, relaxation, and calm.
Grace.
She calls Source on High a wellness co-op and movement studio that includes massage, yoga, meditation, and this, water therapy in float tanks.
I feel like the most powerful healing moments that I've experienced have been with water or somewhere near water.
Her float tanks, she has 2, each holds 160 gallons of water, about 10 to 12 inches high, with a temperature of 92.5 degrees. Each tank has a lid that shuts almost like a cocoon. The key, there's 1,200 pounds of Epsom salts in the water, making it almost impossible for a person to sink.
You can't not float.
Dale Austin just retired after a long career at UK. He's on his way to a float session. His first float last year was in another city.
I tend to be a self-generating stress person, as lots of us are, and I needed something to relieve that.
Dale was excited to hear float tanks were coming to Lexington.
It's certainly not something that's mandatory for me. It's not like I have to take a prescription on a daily basis or something. On the other hand, it's a really good additive benefit to me if I'm able to kick back every month or so and spend an hour and a half relaxing.
You have several options in the float tank. Each one is in a small private room with a shower. You can choose to have the lid closed all the way or partially open. You can go dark inside, or you can choose a light color. Music or no music. And there's an intercom and talk button if you need help.
So I'm floating naturally. I'm not doing any kind of movement of any nature to stay afloat. And that because of that, after some number of minutes, you kind of forget where you're at.
This is complete sensory isolation. Once you're inside the float tank and the lid closes, you essentially can't see anything, you can't hear anything, and the only thing you can really feel inside is the water. You even lose the sense of gravity.
You have this time of having nothing to do, nothing holding onto you or pulling you back. You completely let go, and I mean, it's like a gift.
Dale says the floats also ease his arthritis. NBA superstar Stephen Curry regularly floats in San Francisco.
It's an opportunity to just relax, for one, and get away from all the stresses on the court and in life, but obviously has some physical benefits as well with salt.
I find it purges my mind, sometimes better than others. Some float events are better than other float events, but the ability to kick back and release all the thoughts I have and get back to being a clean mind, if you will, is really beneficial.
So you may be wondering how much it costs. A 1-hour float at Source on High is $60, 3 floats $135. The water in the tank is run through a filter system to try and keep it clean, and the salt water kills any germs. After the float, you take a shower and relax for a while to readjust to being out of the water. Tonight, we've learned a downtown Lexington street closed for months for construction will soon reopen.
Mayor Jim Gray says North Upper Street between West Short and West Main will reopen tomorrow morning. This afternoon, we saw crews paving the road and painting lines for traffic. That block of North Upper has been closed as part of construction for the new 21C Museum Hotel, which is expected to open next month.
New tonight, dozens of new pharmaceutical jobs will be coming to Lexington. State leaders say that Piramal Pharma Solutions plans to invest $10 million to expand Coldstream Laboratories on McGranthien Parkway. Coldstream makes injectable medicine. State leaders say the expansion will create 40 new jobs.
Now.